What would happen if two of the most iconic kings of gaming went toe-to-toe in a battle to determine who would come out on top? Welcome to Smash Bracket, a show dedicated to solving that exact question. If each playable character from the Super Smash Bros. Series was entered into a giant fighting tournament, using them at the peak of their strength, who would be victorious? The rules for the series are on screen now, with a link to a further breakdown in the description. These rules are super important to the series, so please take time to check them out. With all that in place, let's take a look at the match between King Dedede and King K. Rool to figure out who will advance to the next round of the Smash Bracket and who will be disqualified. Let's get into it.
You puny peewees better be scared, cause I'm the baddest dude on the whole planet!
The Kirby series is one of Nintendo's longest-running franchises and has over 42 million sales, cementing it as one of their best-performing franchises as well. It was created by Super Smash Bros. Director Masahiro Sakurai and features a cast of memorable characters, among which we can find King Dedede. Dedede has always been part of the franchise since the very beginning, and used to act as the main villain of the franchise, although since then he's taken on more of the role of a friendly rival than an actual villain. Despite barely being over 1 foot tall, King Dedede is deceptively powerful. This sort of discrepancy between size and power is a big reason that characters from the Kirby universe are some of the most popular picks for versus battle discussions. Now, if you read the rules of the series, you'll know that I try to keep things a bit more grounded here than some other popular versus battle discussions, making sure that a character has to physically demonstrate a feat in order for it to count, and trying to steer clear of power scaling. When it comes to King Dedede though, this presents a bit of an issue. He does show some really impressive feats himself throughout the Kirby franchise, but most of his impressive feats are either demonstrated in multiplayer modes where any character, not just Dedede, would be able to accomplish the feat, therefore being dismissed, or else the feats are only impressive by comparison to Kirby, which also would normally disqualify it. This leaves us in a difficult position. If I strictly follow the zero power scaling rule of the series and the rule of only sticking to video game feats, it would leave King Dedede with a fairly unimpressive collection of feats. But by doing so, I would also massively undersell his power level that was intended by his creators. Looking through the Kirby franchise, he holds his own against some of the toughest creatures in that universe. Given that these battles are supposed to be canonically accurate, I'm going to do my best to find a middle ground here that still goes off of his feats, but also gets him closest to the intent of his creators. But before I get into what comparison feats I will or won't disqualify, let me go over what demonstrable feats he does display throughout the series that don't rely on other characters. He wields a rather impressive hammer that's surprisingly powerful. With it, he has enough strength to shatter metal shutters or even large boulders. But beyond its physical strength, the real power of this hammer comes from its versatility. He can propel the swing of this hammer with fire to increase its power, slam it into the ground to shoot energy shockwaves, and even fire orbs of energy out of it. He can also throw it like a boomerang, causing it to explode. The hammer has also been shown to shoot missiles, fire lasers, and it even houses a flamethrower. King Dedede's arsenal doesn't end here either. He also has a variety of explosives at his disposal, such as time bombs or his trusty rocket launcher. Should the situation require it, he can also summon the ability to double in size up to 2 feet tall. Speaking of size real fast, let me note that in the battle animation of this episode, King Dedede is going to remain at this 2 foot tall size. It's not going to have an effect on the outcome of the battle, but without this size difference, the fight was just too difficult to animate. But anyway, setting aside his damage output for a second, Dedede is also fast enough to move a short distance faster than the eye can measure. But his real speed comes from how quickly he can spin, which is insanely fast. He can generate enough force to propel himself off the ground, leaving an after image, and he's also been able to instantly cool blocks of magma with the wind generated by the spin. But when it comes to durability, unfortunately most of his feats come from multiplayer scenarios when any other character could also survive the same events. So I'm disregarding feats like tanking a planet-sized explosion or surviving a black hole, which is a feat that is always treated with a ton of scrutiny in the series. But this aside, he's still impressively durable. He regularly gets shot through solid stone or metal and is totally fine. But this all brings us back to his comparison feats with Kirby. As you've seen, his solo feats are nothing to scoff at, but they seem to fall below the level that he was clearly intended to have when he's taken in isolation. He regularly fights with Kirby on relatively even footing. and has helped in taking on colossal threats, which leaves a disconnect between what Dedede has shown and what would obviously be required to keep up with Kirby, who is intended to be one of the strongest creatures in his universe, defending the galaxy from some of the strongest threats. Although Kirby's power is another video entirely, Kirby, without any power-ups, is strong enough to regularly send some of his enemies shooting through the sky far enough that they're no longer visible, fast enough to run up a huge distance vertically, and durable enough to survive explosions capable of destroying 1/5 of a moon in a single blast. And Kirby's durability is the key here. While we can't show that Kirby's ever used his maximum strength or speed against Dedede, we have no evidence to show that he wasn't holding back, therefore making these feats dismissible. The one thing that he can't go easy with or fake is his durability. King Dedede has been shown to hit Kirby hard enough to leave him stunned and hurt for a considerable amount of time. Now, while I don't think that this necessarily means that Dedede is 1/5 of Moon level or anything, it's still a significant show of strength that's consistent with the lore of the series. While I really don't like to use comparisons, and I'm going to dismiss any strength or speed feats with Kirby, I think that his feat of damaging Kirby is one worth considering, and shows me that they were likely intended to be much closer than his other feats may show. But no matter who his opponent is, King Dedede is a serious force to be reckoned with.
There's only one chance to stop these invaders.
The Donkey Kong franchise is one of the oldest game franchises ever created, and besides being pivotal to Nintendo's rise, it also boasts over 82 million copies sold in its lifetime. In the Donkey Kong series, the primary returning antagonist is the King of the Kremlin crew and husband of unnamed wife, King K. Rool. Although you may know him by any of the many aliases he's adopted over the years, such as King Kroll, Keith Rool, or Dr. Baron K. Roolenstein. While King K. Rool has always been a part of the Donkey Kong franchise and is relatively confined to the Donkey Kong Country series and its spin-offs, he's still the most iconic villain of the series and has been able to leave a considerable impact with fans. Due to his appearance in the games being generally limited to Donkey Kong Country, he's similar to Dedede in that he doesn't have a ton of feats himself. I'm going to be using the same rules for scaling with King K. Rool that I used with Dedede, and I'm not going to be allowing any sort of power scaling for durability or speed, so Donkey Kong's most impressive strength feats here will not be relevant. That said, King K. Rool doesn't need to be scaled to Donkey Kong to be impressive. He boasts enough strength to send a supersized Chunky Kong flying through the air, who's likely around 300 pounds, and he can jump on a ship with enough force to shake the entire boat. Apart from his physical strength though, he has a ton of weaponry to pull from as well. He can throw his crown at enemies, throw a variety of explosives and gases, turn invisible, and even use a crystal banana to grow to an enormous size. While in this giant form, he can summon meteors, control the wind, shoot bombs from his mouth, and even breathe fire. Of all of his arsenal though, his weapon of choice is his blunderbuss, a gun that can fire a wide variety of ammunition. From this, he can rapidly shoot cannonballs, clouds of gas that freeze or slow down opponents, fire electricity, and it even houses a built-in flamethrower. When it comes to speed, unfortunately, King K. Rool doesn't have much to show, but he is surprisingly agile and a surprisingly good jumper for his size. That said, he can take a serious amount of abuse with his impressive durability. He's strong enough to take a hit that sent him through a metal ceiling, fall down the side of a mountain, and then immediately get attacked by sharks, only to be relatively unharmed later in the game. He's also survived an explosion that was strong enough to destroy his small crocodile island. That being said, what this scene shows is a bit unclear. He doesn't seem to have tanked the island busting hit himself, as we can see by how quickly he escapes, but rather he was present and able to get out relatively unharmed. While this does likely give him some impressive durability, what the scene is actually implying is ambiguous. One thing is for sure though, King K. Rool is not an opponent to be taken lightly. Now, with both of the fighters weighed and evaluated, let's get into the match and find out who will advance on to the next round of the Smash bracket and who will be eliminated. Here we go.
3, 2, 1, go!
And there you go! This battle was surprisingly close at first glance. A series like Death Battle likely would have weighed these characters much differently, resulting in a landslide victory for King Dedede. But with the rules of this series, things weren't so clear. While they both have similarly impressive durability feats, and their max speeds weren't super clear, what really broke the tie for me is the fact that Dedede was able to knock out Kirby in a single blow. And it is certainly enough to outclass anything that King K. Rool has dealt with before, and anything that King K. Rool has shown before. King K. Rool hasn't come anywhere close to the strength that would be required to compete with King Dedede's durability. After all is said and done, King Dedede is the winner and will be advancing on to the next round of the Smash Bracket. Next time on the Smash Bracket.